all migrant workers and members of their families. The Conventions on the Rights of the Persons with Disabilities, the International Conventions of the Protections of all the persons from enforced disappearance. What are the international perspectives? They set forth everyday rights such as the right to life, equality before the law, freedom of expressions, the right to work, the social security and educations. Together with UDHR, that is the Universal Declarations of Human Rights, the Covenant comprise the International Bill of Human Rights. Civil and political rights are the rights that generally restrict the power of government in respect of actions affecting the individual and his or her autonomy, that is the civil rights, and confer an opportunity upon people to contribute to the determination of the laws and participate in government, that is the political rights. So what is international perspectives? Sometimes it is called as a global mindset or intercultural skills. We are calling it international perspective. Whatever you want to call it, this skill is becoming much taught after by recruiters. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights was adopted by the UN General Assembly with resolutions 2200 ampere on 16 December 1966, and it entered into force on 23 March 1976. So in international perspectives, it includes the knowledge and understanding of different cultures, speaking or writing another language, willingness to travel abroad for work, being able to quickly adapt to working in another country, experience of living or working in abroad, understanding the benefits of working in multicultural environment. So willingness to be challenged by different viewpoints, openness to opportunities outside your own country, and eagerness to collaborate with the peoples from different cultures. So what are the benefits of having the international perspectives? An international perspective is increasingly in demand as more companies operate in more than one country and with culturally diverse clients and stakeholders. Employers need candidates that can adapt to working in this global market. A recent study by the British Council shows that an international perspective will be recognized as a real benefit by the employers, whereas they see it as a genuine risk to the business if employee lack these skills. Furthermore, candidates with the international perspectives would have access to the wider range of opportunities as they are perhaps less concerned with the borders and language barriers, helping them tap into a global job market. So in the civil rights, some of the important rights in the category of the right to life. Everyone has the rights to life, and according to the international human rights mechanism, these rights can be violated in a variety of ways, including deaths in custody as a result of torture, neglects, the use of force or life threatening conditions of detentions, killing by state agents or person acting in direct or indirect compliances with the state when the force used is not absolutely necessary or proportionate to the circumstances. Expulsions or refoulements, of persons to country where their lives are in danger, failure by the state to investigate alleged violations of the rights to life and to bring those responsible to justice. So international human rights mechanism also place limits on the use of the death penalty. Next one, the rights to the freedom from torture. Everyone has the right to freedom from torture and inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. So according to the international human rights mechanism, this right can be violated in a variety of way, including the deliberate inflictions of several physical and psychological pain by state agents with the intentions of causing suffering, expelling and returning a person to a country in which they face a real risk of being tortured or subjected to inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment, keeping persons in very pure conditions of detentions even if there is no attentions to inflict suffering. The corporal, that is the physical punishment of the children in the schools. Next one, the right to a fair trial. So everyone has the right to fair trial, and according to the international human rights mechanism, this right can be violated in a variety of way, including by hearing criminal charges before administrative bodies which are not independent and impartial courts. So trials in which from the beginning one party has a significant advantages over the others, excessive delays in bringing a case to trial and or in completing court proceeding, secret trials, failing to respect the presumptions of innocence by denying procedural protections to accused persons. For example, information about the nature of the charge, time to prepare a defense, access to lawyers, the possibilities to confront witnesses, and access to interpretations. Next, the rights to freedom of assembly and association. So in this case, everyone has to right to freedom of assembly and associations according to the international human rights mechanism. This right can be violated in a variety of the ways, including the preventing peaceful public demonstrations, restricting possibilities to join the voluntary associations, denying persons the rights to form and or join the organized unions. Next one, the rights to freedom of expression. So according to the international human rights mechanism, this right can be violated in different varieties of way, including the restricting access to the political, artistic or commercial information and ideas, limiting the freedom of the press, placing undue restrictions on the broadcasting. Next one is the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religions. So this right shall include the freedom to have or to adopt a religion or to believe of his choice, and the freedom either individually or in community with others and in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in worship, observance, practice and teaching, coercing peoples to adapt certain religions and imposing unreasonable restrictions, including criminal penalties for exercising one's own religions are the most typical violations of his right. Freedom to manifest one's religion or belief may be the subject only to such limitations as are prescribed by laws or the fundamental rights and the freedom of the others. The rights to an effective remedies. Everyone has the right to an effective remedies if his or her human rights are violated. So according to the international human rights mechanism, failing to provide adequate procedures to complain about or obtain compensation for killing by security forces, not carrying out inquiry into the alleged ill treatment by security forces, not establishing complaint procedure regarding the interceptions of telephone calls, failing to provide means of redress for persons suspended from school on the ground of their religious affiliations. Next one, the rights to privacy. So according to international human rights, these rights is given intervening in a person's private life, disrupting family life, destroying a person's home or preventing a person from living in or his home, interfering with private correspondence. The next one is the right to liberty and security. So everyone has the right to liberty and security, and according to the international human rights mechanism, it including unlawful or arbitrary detentions, means where there is no legal basis for the deprivation of liberty. So for example, when a person is kept in detentions after the completion of their prison sentence or despite an of law which applies to them. So detentions of persons because they have exercised the rights and freedoms guaranteed by international instruments, including the ones described in a manual. Detentions after a trial which did not comply with the international standards for a fair trial. The rights to asylum. So in these rights, according to the international human rights, not providing the facilities necessary to enable the peoples to claim the asylums, that is including the interpreters and properly trained immigration staff, failing to give adequate considerations to a request for the asylum, expelling a person to a country in which he or she would be at risk of torture or inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. Next one is the right to freedom from discriminations. So according to the international human rights mechanism, it involves the discriminating against someone because of race, color, language, religion, political allegiances, opinions, nationality, social backgrounds, association with the national minorities. So the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights in 1966. So in generally there are three articles: rights to self determinations. Next, state parties undertake to respect and protect all individuals and their rights. Equal rights of men and women to the enjoyment of civil and political statutory provisions. Rights to life, rights against the cruel and inhuman treatments, rights against the slaveries, rights to liberty, rights to human treatment in case of deprivation of liberty. So there are lots of articles: freedom to reside anywhere, equality before court and tribunals, rights to recognitions as a person before law, rights against unlawful interference into one privacies, rights to freedom of opinion, rights to peaceful assembly, rights to freedom of associations, right to vote, right to equalities, like this. Next one is the political rights. These rights guaranteed the positive liberty to contribute to the process of governing the affairs of society in which one lives. The political rights presume that the government processes should be structured so as to provide opportunities for political participations of all eligible citizens. And according to the modern concept of political rights, every citizen should have the rights and opportunities without unreasonable restrictions to take part into the conduct of public affairs directly or through chosen representative. While political rights are very much emphasized in US, the percentage of Americans who choose to actively participate political process is one of the lowest among industrialized nations. So this fact alone speaks volume about the political environment in which American citizens are expected to exercise their political freedoms. So for example, in 2000 presidential campaigning, for example, less than 50% of eligible voters cast their ballots. So scholars differ on why this decline in voting has occurred from the high point of the late 19th century, when voting rates regularly ran at 85% or better of qualified voters. So some historian attributes the decline to the corresponding decline in the importance of the political parties in the daily lives of peoples. So others think that the growth of well-moneyed interest groups has led peoples to lose interest in election fought primarily through television and newspaper advertisements. So when non-voters are queried as to why they did not vote, the answers range widely. So these are those who did not think that their single vote would make a difference, and those who did not believe that the issue affected them, as well as those who just did not care. A sad commentary in light of long historical movement towards the universal suffrage in the United States. Thank you.